The following video has been created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Subscribing is optional. Now please, enjoy the show. Sebastian knew what was going on here as his feet carried him over a seemingly endless sidewalk in an all too familiar mega city. The sky was grey and foreboding, bubbling with the intent to unleash a torrent of rain that would drown the streets and turn every one of the people like shapes into wet zombies. The saboteur had his hands hidden in his pockets, turned to fists, mumbling so quietly to himself he couldn't even hear his own voice. "This isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real," he repeated like a mantra. This dream was the result of his memories and experiences of the day. He knew that. And a parasite he had been infected with, God knows how long ago, was making this dream more vivid, more alive, while also taking any control he had over it away. No, this wasn't a lucid dream despite his awareness. The parasite went by the name of X-3232. The creature was theorized to have arrived with the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. They were so small, when fully grown, they were just barely visible by the naked eye. And their eggs were diamond-hard micro-pebbles that could survive almost any environment. Well, obviously they would melt in lava and potentially burn in the sun, but they could survive the vacuum of space, and even stayed alive and fertile even after being exposed to absolute zero temperatures. What hatched from these eggs, X-32X-32, was what appeared to be the larvae of a squid, but DNA-wise it had more similarity with regular Earth bugs. These creatures, due to their small size, could freely move around in a human body, and especially in a body as regenerative as that of Sebastian. These things had free reign. The race had no gender until infection, taking on the biological opposite of their host upon feeding on them for the first time, using their DNA counterpart to fertilize the next generation. Or in other words, both males and females of the species produced and laid fertilized eggs. It made Sebastian wonder how many thousands of babies he already had with the creature inside him. The parasite's existence was given away by his dreams. Of course, awake him didn't know what happened in them. According to the documentation, however, and his own experience upon waking up, a feeling of satisfaction was always there. He felt good. The dreams were apparently really pleasurable. But as he looked up at the grey skyscrapers and bustling streets filled with mere shadows of what a human looked like, this was rather unpleasant. Like the parasite's interpretation of a nightmare. But why would the parasite give him a nightmare? This seemed to be opposite to what it intended. Sebastian had awoken in the harbor, stranded. His clothes dry, human body regained, but the city, it was familiar. It was New York, where he had lived so long ago. Well, after he woke up, he might as well go home, right? Little nostalgia trip. Would probably be a little uplifting, right? That's at least what he was thinking. He stopped suddenly on his walk, his gaze going left to right. Yeah, he remembered this street. It was close to home, just a few more blocks. He remembered it because of the homeless encampment just below him in the sewers. And its entrance was... He turned right. Faceless ghosts dressed in rags stood around lit barrels and tents. There were shopping carts filled with garbage and scrap, cardboard boxes with feet sticking out of them. Unsure whether or not the person inside was dead or alive. Sebastian wondered if 3232 had enough information of his previous life to manifest a version of a man who just went by the name of Hobo Joe. Crafty little shit, who managed to steal a key off of one of his neighbors, giving him access to at least the main building where he lived. Sebastian had met the guy multiple times in the apartment's lobby and basement. He wasn't a bad guy, just some dude looking for shelter. There was an unwritten rule in the entire apartment complex. Just don't go into the basement after 12, that's when Hobo Joe went to sleep, and if he touches you, just say no, like to an unruly puppy, and he will then leave you alone. And he actually followed these rules to a T. Nostalgia. Sebastian smiled and went down a few more familiar roads. Until he grunted. There it was. A red, run-down apartment building. His hands automatically reached for his pants and, like magic, the keys were there. Even though they hadn't been there when he awoke in the harbor. And the key fit perfectly. Better than it ever did. He chuckled and entered. The lobby lights flickered, and it was cold. Just so he remembered it. With his head hung low, he walked past a human-shaped shadow lying on the floor in the fetal position. Well, seems like Hobo Joe was accounted for, even if it was in that form. Slowly but surely, Sebastian ascended to the 6th floor, stopping himself at the coin-based electricity box next to his apartment. With the same dream logic, money now began to appear in his pockets as he pulled out a few coins. They had no labeling on them, just vaguely at the size of a $50 coin. Once the timer on the machine said 24 hours, he stepped away and pushed the second key into the keyhole, closing the door to his apartment behind himself. Sebastian sighed, exhausted. A feeling of being watched had followed him until now, and, well, it wasn't letting go. But he was feeling a little safer here. His apartment was a dingy little thing. 3 doors in a narrow hallway led to a kitchen, a bathroom, and the living room, where his bed was situated, as well as his computer desk. Additionally, the living room also had a glass door leading to a balcony. Not sure what to do now, he started his regular routine of work, just like back then when he was human. He threw his jacket in the corner, stepped into the kitchen, and heated up a packaged cheeseburger while pouring himself a glass of soda. Then a bathroom break, followed by the microwave going ding, and a depressing meal in front of the TV. Of course, the dream just depicted a strange mishmash of random ads he remembered from his childhood, completely chaotic and cut up. Honestly, if he was high, this probably would have great entertainment value. Sebastian was actually finding some enjoyment in this dream. It was normal. Compared to what his life had become, it was even pleasant. Nostalgic. Though, the fact that at some point he had to wake up was kinda souring it. Sighing deeply, he reached for a pack of smokes on his living room table when a knocking on his door threw him off. He slowly looked towards the door. Sebastian had a neighbor who hated him, and always started pounding on his door if he dared to be just slightly too noisy to his liking. God, was that guy pissed off when he got headphones. Shouting at Sebastian was his only joy in life, and Sebastian just had to ruin it by doing exactly what the guy wanted. the beautiful anvil of irony. Snickering to himself at the memory, the man stood up and walked to the door. But as he opened it, he wasn't met by a shadow resembling his noisy neighbor. No, it was you, X3232. And also the only other thing in this dream world that had full human features. You are dressed in ugly brown and grey clothes that were covered in holes and dirt. Square-shaped glasses, one of them cracked, sitting on your nose. You wore a grey beanie, pulled down so far it just barely covered your long elf ears. You wore grey, fingerless gloves and a dirty green shirt. Suspiciously, Sebastian narrowed his eyes. I'm guessing you are... He was interrupted by you wrapping yourself around him, breaking out into loud, ugly sobs. Surprised, Sebastian blinked, taking a step back. He closed the door behind you. For a moment he stood there while you cried into him. Awkwardly so. Alright, that's enough. He gently pushed you off of him while you rubbed your eyes into the gloves. Let's start with the simple fact. Who are you? I was so scared. I don't know where I was. You tapped your fingers together. I awoke in a paper box, dressed like this. You spread your arms to show your outfit. And there were these scary things everywhere, staring at me. And then I saw you, host. I was so happy, but you didn't see me and just kept walking. The things, there were so many of them. Sebastian slapped a hand on your mouth, and you went quiet. I'm guessing you're that thing? He grumbled as he pointed a finger at his head, and you nodded. Annoyed, Sebastian rubbed his eyes. Judging by your reaction, this isn't the first time we met. It isn't, you said after you removed his hand. You keep forgetting our times together. Sebastian rubbed his shoulder, annoyed. Great, so, how do I wake up? Kinda getting sick of this. You tilted your head. With an innocent expression and a little blush, you said meekly, well, you just do it, and after you finish a few times, you... Wait, we have... He made an obscene hand gesture, and you nodded. Exhausted, he inhaled through his mouth, and after exhaling, yeah, not now, he muttered. Turning around, hands in his pockets, he walked into his apartment, and upon reaching the doorframe to his living room, you started following him. You watched him grab his cigarettes and wordlessly go onto the balcony, you closely behind him. He took out a cigarette and gave you one before searching through his pockets. And a minute later he went, here we go. But as he pulled out his lighter, he watched you chewing, with the cigarette missing from your lips. Wait, did you just... You stopped chewing. Did you just eat that? Embarrassed, you blushed. Wasn't I supposed to? You said with a full mouth. Sighing, Sebastian grabbed his ashtray. Come on, spit it out. All of it. There we go. Amused, he lit his own cigarette. You don't eat these, he said casually. You inhale them. You watched as he demonstrated, and then blew a big cloud of stinking smoke at your face. Gagging, you whipped it out of your face. Alright, so you don't like it. That's good to know, he said as he sat down on his outdoor garden chair, twiddling your fingers while he continued. Really counterproductive, this forgetting thing, huh?
Makes it awkward sometimes.
You admitted.
Especially since I never know what worlds you conjure, but I think it helps you that in the dreams you're a different person, so you know from the get-go something is off.
I suppose. He tapped the smoke against the ashtray before putting it back in his mouth.
Host, what is this place?
You asked, a voice laden with fear and sadness. It's home. Where I lived before I got into that mess. He looked down at the streets, though now it was nothing but a gaping void from up here. Or more, vague random memories put together. He pointed south towards the Statue of Liberty. For example, I'm pretty sure that thing is smaller in real life than I remember. And those two buildings over there, he pointed into another direction towards two towers. They're not here anymore. And it's a dead giveaway that something isn't right here.
Shadow monsters aside, I suppose.
Sebastian chuckled at your comment. Well, I guess you can call them shadow monsters, but that's just how people in the city see others and their memories. At least the ones you don't interact with. It actually felt a little normal, even if it was a little scary at first.
You narrowed your eyes. Are humans sad, host?
Sebastian raised an eyebrow, at first not fully understanding what you meant, but now that he thought about it, this was a surprisingly deep question for someone who didn't even know how to properly smoke. Though, then again, it also was an innocent question, like a child asking why the sky is blue. It was strangely endearing, though. Truth be told, I won't be judging that question with a 10-foot pole. He grinned, throwing away the cigarette butt. He exhaled one more time, and leaned casually against the railing. So, is there a reason the world is this right now? I don't remember going to bed feeling particularly sad.
It's the radio song. Your mind conjured up images of this place when you heard that radio song earlier today.
He raised an eyebrow. Radio song. It had been in the morning, while Sebastian had been flicking through Urban Shade radio chatter for fun when he found the company radio. It played a happy little ditty from the 70s.
I guess music just sticks with me,
you said.
And it must have had an influence on your mind.
I see. The saboteur walked past you into the living room, looking at his computer setup. Want to know a little fact? I played old Frank Sinatra and I wrote the program that hacked into Urban Shade servers all those years ago. Gently he brushed over his old keyboard. Sebastian smiled. I suppose this dream is my memory of that day. Well, it was in autumn, I guess. Would explain the weather. Some of the apartments started to feel a little brighter now.
Host?
He asked questioningly at his strange expression. So, 3232. Do you, need to eat or something while you're here? You shook your head.
I already ate.
Good, I just ate the last burger. He brushed off your I already ate comment. He didn't want to think about you sucking his blood. He casually sat down on his sofa, while you awkwardly sat a further away at the corner. And he noticed. So how does this usually go, huh? You blushed.
You just do it.
How come?
My appearance is based on what you enjoy the most.
He looked you up and down skeptically. Yeah, right. He leaned forward and pulled off the beanie, making you reveal beautiful golden hair to him. And your elf ears. Sebastian held sharply. Oh, I get it now. He grabbed your shoulders, pulling you down with him. Looking at Sebastian, breathing slowly through his mouth. His hands slipping past the thick, brown drifter jacket you wore, directly to that ugly green sweater of yours. His hands slid down your body lecherously, and he smirked. I get it now, he said, while his hands brushed over the outline of your chest. I admit, I'd dress like that too if I was a sexy little elf trying to hide in a homeless camp of all things. He bit his lower lip. Something about that really was doing it for him, as he could feel his pants tighten almost immediately upon the realization. Alright, I gotta admit, he purred after getting a lustful squeal out of you after pinching you just right. One good thing about you is that I get to do you first every time over and over again. That sounds nice. He purred. And God, his smirk, it was so sexy.
Thank you for enjoying yourself, my host. It's all I want, really.
You purred. Say, why do you call me host? You tilted your head.
Because you are my host. I'm inside you, and...
He put a finger on your mouth. Instinctually, you start sucking it, which made him chuckle. His past dream selves trained you well. But you talking about being inside him was kinda making him feel icky. Well, I mean, sure, I'm your host, but why not just call me Sebastian? You pulled away from his finger, leaving a long line of salvia as you popped off of him.
That topic came up already,
you said with lustfully narrowed eyes.
I agreed, but then you said, wait, how will I identify you in the future dreams? Wait, how will I identify you in future dreams?
He nodded. Considering he instantly realized who you were the moment you called him host, that made sense. I suppose that was smart of me. You leaned down, brushing your head against his cheek like a cat in heat.
You're always smart, my beloved host.
His hands gripped your hips tightly, making you shiver in delight, before he turned you around, pinning you down on the sofa. Well, considering how this works, you won't be needing these anymore. He growled lustfully, grabbing the shirt. His knuckles turned white as he ripped open the sweater in a single display of his strength. And he gasped at the sight of your chest. He nodded slowly as you gave him a coy smile.
I know you can't resist them, my beloved host. And...
Your comment was interrupted by his greedy hands, kneading them. Your chest was so sensitive it made your entire body shiver in pleasure.
Host.
His lips clashed onto yours. Your eyes rolled back, your entire body wiggling against him. He was in control, and you delighted in that. Sebastian kept his tongue in his mouth for now. After all, he would not remember this, so might as well take full advantage of this delicious buffet before him. Oh shit! Sebastian's heavy snake body raised itself from the mattress. He was out of breath, sweat running down his forehead. The saboteur exhaled. His heart was racing, and his privates had come out of their little pouch. He was shaking. It felt as if he had just done the deed, or at least was interrupted in the middle of it. He rubbed his throat. It tickled there, and then he coughed again. Seems as if he might have gotten some spittle into the wrong pipe. He leaned back against the wall of his hiding spot. What the hell had he been dreaming about? Not even his ex could get his body excited like this. But he was starting to like it. Starting to maybe not want the parasite removed. And you probably couldn't understand him, but... Hey, sorry for interrupting whatever we were doing, okay? I can see that I was having a lot of fun. God, I hope you can hear me. Hey, you watched the video until the very end. That's very kind of you. But before I say goodbye, I have to shout out all of my lovely channel members, especially my high-ranking darling stewards, who get a members-only video every month. Join the tier for just $4.99. Anyways, we have Nicolai Hatcher, Maxi Cat, Alison Watkins, Bella Mare, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. Thank you for supporting me. Also, thank you to everybody else who is supporting me. You are keeping me alive.